Welcome to this week's edition of World of Business, your weekly guide to trending business news and latest developments on the stock exchange. My name is Admaya Mungu. Now, the 2025 midterm budget and economic review presented by Economic Development, that is Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion Minister, Professor Mthuli Ncube, revealed significant strides made by Zimbabwe's government in stimulating economic growth amid complex global and domestic challenges. However, it also exposes persistent gaps and critical areas requiring urgent attention. We will discuss this and more with our economic analyst. But first of all, let's look at the exchange rates as of today.
The Zimbabwe gold to the USD interbank rate was at 26.77 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 35.63 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the euro interbank rate was at 31 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the South African rand interbank rate was at 0.66 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Botswana pula interbank rate was at 1.89 ZiG.
We also give you commodity prices as they stand today.
Gold per ounce traded at $3,424 after it went down by 0.30 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $37.83 after it went up by 0.02 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $441.85 after it went up by 0.74 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $1,321.27 after it went down by 0.11 percentage points.
That's it for World of Business in the first segment. Stay tuned as we discuss more on the midterm policy review. Welcome back to World of Business. Today we are looking at the midterm budget review. Now, some of the key takeaways from the presentation that Zimbabwe remains on course to achieve 6% GDP growth. That is at the end of 2025. Also, that is being held by strong sectoral performance and macro stability. Fiscal discipline is now the maintaining of it is now quite important. To discuss this, we've invited to the show that is economic analyst as well as a prominent economist, a person that is not stranger to a lot of people, especially who watch this program, Mr. Persistence Gwanyanya. It's good to have you on World of Business.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. We go straight into it, Persistence. The midterm budget review. Your key takeaways from there.
I think it is important to underscore the fact that this budget review did not come with surprises. A break from the past and something that gives people, the ordinary folks, confidence. I think it just shows the new way of doing things in town, that we need policies that are predictable. We need policies, some measure of certainty in the policy space. It's good for business. It's good for the generality of the population. But beyond predictability, beyond the lack of shocks, and beyond that, we see the policies that are geared towards growth and stability being either perfected or some consistency in the pursuit of those policies. You find out that we had an ambitious growth target of 6% last year, and that growth projection has been maintained, but it also takes a lot of effort to achieve that growth target.
I like the way you talk about it being an ambitious projection. Of course, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, the biggest projection, 6%. Most of the region is hovering around 3.8%. Actually, it was actually revised down from 4%. What makes you confident? And does this midterm review make you confident in us achieving the 6% projection?
Yeah, you are right to say that the budget projection or the growth projection of 6% may seem at face value is ambitious, especially given the factors that confront us as an economy, external and domestic factors as well. We have now gotten into the frame of trying to build resilience on the economy against increased occurrences of these factors. But despite that, we see the efforts on the ground, but also the progress that we have made so far is supporting the achievement of the 6% growth target. The progress we've made so far relates to agriculture, for example, but also relates to electricity generation. There's been significant improvement in the agriculture sector thanks to the good rains this year.
Rains, yes.
So we see a recovery of the agriculture sector realizing. It is realizing on account of the growth in production, the cereals production, grain production. I think this year grain production is now projected, following the second round of crop, livestock and fisheries assessment, is now projected at around 2.9 million tons, with maize production of around 2.3 million tons, which is above our annual requirement of 2.2 million tons. We have also seen significant progress relating to tobacco production. Tobacco production broke the record, historic record, to 347.7 million kgs, which is a significant increase from around 229 million kgs last year. But like I've indicated, a record production this year. The same can be said to wheat production. We continue to see increased wheat production, and as we achieve surplus wheat production, which is a significant.
This is due to the better rains,
this
as
is
well as the climate proofing through
better
irrigation.
Rains, climate proofing, but also the efforts that we did from the Agriculture Ministry. There's quite a lot of effort, there's quite a lot of arrangement, there's quite a lot of education around that. So that gives us confidence of growth in the agriculture sector. The agriculture sector is now projected to grow at around 21% from the initial projection of around 12.8%, but which is significantly higher than prior contraction. I think contraction of around 18%. So that gives us confidence of the growth in the economy, noting that agriculture contributes after the economic census. I think it's now contributing about 9.3% of the country's GDP. But we have also seen a significant improvement in electricity generation, also supported by the improved rains.
Yeah.
We have seen improved generation at Kariba, hydroelectricity. And you know, as the country grows, our country is growing, and the numbers attest to that growth in the economy, especially if you look at the recalibrated numbers after the rebasing of the economy. You find that our economy is growing, but as it grows in the mining sector, but as it grows and climbs up the value chain, you need power.
Exactly.
So we were more concerned about the power generation, but we are happy with the progress that we have made so far in the power generation space.
So you talked about because of the rains. That is for the Kariba.
Rains, but also on the Wange
yes.
power station, there's been previously some progress that happened there in respect of Wange 7 and 8.
Yes,
but I understand there's also work happening in respect of refurbishment of the other units. So,
and
which
also
gives
the
us
solar units
confidence.
that we've
And
seen.
also
So
what we are seeing is greater participation in the green energy.
exactly.
Yeah, but we there's quite a lot of potential.
But for our viewers' persistence, you talked about agriculture. We understand how agriculture then impacts on our growth projections. Talk about energy. How does energy then impact on that 6% projection?
Yes. So like I've indicated, the key drivers of the economy, mining is emerged as one of the key drivers of the economy, especially after the economic census. Manufacturing is a key driver of the economy. Now manufacturing, we now know that it is the biggest contributor of the economy.
We'll talk about that.
Yes.
And
But
it's a number that's quite interesting.
If you look at mining, manufacturing, all these depend to a greater extent on electricity.
energy.
So the state of your electricity situation dictates to a greater extent the progress that you make in these contributors to the GDP or the growth in the economy. These are key contributors.
To the so
economy.
you are quite buoyant on that 6%, which we will achieve.
Yeah, now that we are, the agriculture sector or the performance of the agriculture sector has actually been realized.
Yeah.
It's now a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have also done quite well in terms of the winter wheat program. So we have actually realized that. So what is left is for the rest of the year, but we are very confident in terms of what is happening in the manufacturing sector, very confident in what is happening in all other sectors of the economy. But what also gives me confidence of accelerated progress
Yes.
is the stability that we're experiencing as an economy. But also, what is important about this stability is it dictates the quality of growth. Volatility-driven growth is not a sustainable growth driver. So if it is stability-driven, you are at least assured of some measure of sustainability of that growth. Yes, it is not without its ramifications. It is not without its negatives. But
you talk about negatives. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is World of Business. We take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to World of Business, where we're still joined by economic analyst Mr. Persistence Gwanyanya. And before we took a break, Persistence, you talked about there is some negative effects of stability. Tell us more. What do you mean?
Yeah, I've indicated that in the past, the economy could be driven by volatilities. You find out that at every opportunity, one would want to offload the local currency because of volatilities in the currency. Now, that is no longer the case on account of the tight monetary policy stance, but also on account of prudent fiscal policy measures. You find out that the local currency has become tight. There's now tightness on the local currency. And this tightness is also impacted on some businesses. Some businesses are now experiencing some stress. You find some businesses, even closures. But we view that as the price of stability. But we also view that as the necessary adjustment or right sizing of the economy.
So you talked about the closures. It's normal? The price of stability? But at the end of the day,
it's the price of stability.
Is that desired?
It's the price of stability. But what is important is for the business also to adjust to the new reality. So there is a layer of growth which was not sustainable. There is a layer of growth which was not realistic. It was volatility driven, like I've indicated. That layer of growth is vanishing. So we need to be realistic about the new reality. The new reality is that layer of growth may not have been desirable. And therefore, as we press ahead with stability, that layer of growth may be sacrificed.
Okay, let's go back to the midterm policy. Then there was partial implementation of expenditures. You find that only 35% of expenditure, in fact, the actual collections and expenditures were done. Does this reflect on a positive when it comes to fiscal management?
Yeah, but you must understand the budget cycle and our cash flows, the behavior of the country's cash flows. Right? In terms of the budget cycle, the budget is normally done presented November, December, November.
Normally in November.
Normally in November, the previous year.
The previous year, yes.
But only approved the following year, January, thereabouts, or even late January, thereabouts. What that means is, in terms of even the utilization, it is affected by the approval of the budget. But you want to agree with me that during that same period, which is the first quarter of the year, the performance of the budget in terms of inflows is largely reduced because of low economic activities.
Exactly.
The first quarter of the year is normally, in terms of activity, very low. Because of that, the sources of revenue, government revenue, such as VAT, that relates to transactions, are also low. The other source of government revenue, which is the corporate tax, QPDs, are normally paid in March. And I think the proportion of that payment in March is at a low point. So, but also in terms of the other economic activities and revenue sources, which is the mining activities, but also the agriculture, specifically tobacco, they will be very low during that period. Mining activities are normally affected by the rains. On account of rains, you find that the production in the mining sector is low. You have seen that with gold. Gold is only recovered after the first quarter of the year. But we have now started to see significant increases in the inflows.
But does this show that government has adhered to eat what you kill policy in terms of there's not much in terms of going over what was expected? Because only 35% of that budget has been realized.
And that is in line with the revenue inflows.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we now expect the revenues to peak after in the second quarter. The revenues have started to pick up. Third quarter and fourth quarter, we expect the pickup in the revenues, and we expect then to fully utilize our budget by year end. So the trend has traditionally been like that, and it's expected. It doesn't speak to poor utilization of the budget, or it doesn't speak to.
So these are good numbers. This is what you're saying.
Yeah, their numbers reflect the cash flows of the economy. It reflects the realities on the ground.
Let's talk about public debt at 44% of GDP. Now, how concerned should Zimbabweans be about this debt, debt sustainability, particularly the rising domestic debt?
Yeah, we have always been concerned about debt as an albatross in the neck of the economy. But we now get new insights from the census that indeed our debt, yes, it's high at 21.5 billion. But in terms of the debt to GDP ratio, which is an important statistic that show the extent to which our debt is bigger.
What percentage is that?
44%. But compared to our regional peers, I think we are well within the averages. But also compared to SADC benchmarks, I think the benchmark of SADC is 60 or 60% thereabouts. We are well within the SADC benchmarks.
Exactly.
But even if we look at other European countries, look at America, the debt to GDP ratio is very high. In most European countries, even 100% or more debt to GDP ratio. But this does not say we are sitting in a comfortable space as a country. Our circumstances are different. As it relates to the debt, we have been struggling with dealing with our legal debt, that debt which we have been carrying from the late 90s or 2000s, debt at the international financial institutions, and which debt I think the bulk of it is now being dealt with under the area clearance and debt resolution strategy. So there's already a strategy to deal with the debt, which attests to the agents in addressing the debt situation of the country. But also we are concerned about the growth in the domestic debt, but basically it speaks to the ability of the country to attract the debt, or to attract further affordable and with good terms debt. That is what is more important. Debt is not a problem, but what is a problem is the capacity to service that debt. Is the capacity to refinance the debt, is the capacity
and does
to be
Zimbabwe
able
have
to
that capacity, and
attract,
are we doing it well?
is the capacity to be able to attract more debt at favorable terms.
Give us the answers.
So
are we able to do that?
We are working on that under the strategy I have spoken about, which is the area clearance and debt resolution strategy. We are working on that. Admittedly, we have had challenges relating to the debt, and it was burdening the country.
All right. Let's look at the ZIG. Obviously, with new rules requiring businesses to pay taxes in ZIG, how might this impact formalization? And that's an issue that you're quite,
we have always wanted this stability equation to be completed by a robust demand for the local currency. Yes, we have managed very well in terms of tightening the ZIG money supply growth, but you also want the use case for that ZIG to be very clear. You want the options to transact in ZIG to be very clear, to give meaning to the tight monetary policy stance, to give meaning to the currency itself, it should have the readily available uses. So when you are going to look for that currency because it is in demand, you are going to guard jealously that currency because it's in demand.
And that's exactly what we've been seeing.
So that's what we want. So we want the options that we can use to buy with the ZiG to be as many as possible, so that even those in the forgotten corners of the world will seek the ZiG.
The ZiG. That's quite,
yes,
quite,
and
quite,
that's where we want to go.
Because of my time persistence, I'll just give you a few seconds, 15 seconds. This is where we are at the midterm. We need to get to 6% growth. That's the projection. Are we in the right direction, and are we at the right speed?
We are in the right direction, I think. Of course, there is need for one or two tweaks as regards the structure of the economy and the flow of revenue. I've highlighted something about the census, the economic census, which was done by Zimstats and which gave us some important insights about our economy. Worryingly, our economy has grown up to become more informalized at 76.9%. But if we reflect at even the revenues, yes,
I'll give you 30 seconds more.
If we have done well,
you're quite passionate about
the revenues.
Yeah.
But I'm more concerned about the concentration or the burden of that contribution on a few established formalized businesses, which are about 23%. 96% of our budget has been contributed by the taxes. But if you look at the structure of the economy, it says that those taxes are contributed by that small constituents of 23%, which is formalized. What that means is we now need to coach our policies around how to get those in the informal sector, those that are currently not contributing to the mainstream economy.
Is that happening?
To contribute in
is
the
that
mainstream
happening,
economy.
and how is it going to be? Is it going to be
comfortably? We have seen, following the cabinet approval of reviews of regulatory fees and even regulations, which have been impacting on the ease of doing business. We have seen the minister reinforcing that through implementation, that
we'll
those
have
are going
to
to
talk
be
about that. That's quite interesting. We'll have to make more time and talk about that as a topic in itself. For Persistence Gwanyanya, economic analyst, thank you so much for joining us here on World of Business.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And also thank you so much for joining us on World of Business. My name is Admaya Mungu, and from everyone else behind the scenes, it's a goodbye and see you next time.